Hi, and welcome to News in Depth. I'm Adam Lowenstein. On today's episode, we'll tell you about how numerous agencies, from Homeland Security to the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, came together recently at Port Canaveral to prepare for what they hope never happens, a fuel spill at the massive $150 million fuel terminal that's set to open at the port next year. We'll tour Satellite High School for an up-close look at the school's just completed $35 million facelift that started nearly 2.5 years ago. We'll have a party with Beulah Christy, a Melbourne resident still going strong at the age of 108. She's quite a dancer, as you'll see in our report. And would a News in Depth be complete without a video hurricane tip? Of course not. Today's will be of interest to your four-legged companions, so be sure to bring them into the room in about 19 minutes. But first up today, a look at the amazing potential for something most of us take for granted if we think about it at all: algae. A Melbourne company called Petro Algae has developed a way to turn this slimy green stuff into both environmentally friendly diesel fuel, as counterintuitive as that product sounds, and a protein-rich feed for livestock. And the world is starting to take notice. The 3-year-old company recently inked its first licensing agreement and expects to generate its first ever revenue this year. We spent time at Petro Algae's Fellsmere farm recently, where we learned how algae gets turned into energy.
So the background of this project is that everyone knows there's a big need to replace petroleum. And so energy is what society runs on, so you need a replacement for petroleum. So for a number of years now, everyone's been looking for renewable sources of energy, i.e. plants that you could grow from which you could make fuels that would replace fuels made from petroleum. And that's what we're all about. So for a while, people spent a lot of time looking at macro crops: palm, from which you make palm oil; soy oil; corn starches and sugars. Well, when you do the analysis on those crops, first of all, they have the problem that they compete with food. Many of them are also made for food, and it causes a gigantic rise in food prices. But more fundamentally, there's just not enough land. Why is there not enough land? Because the big crops grow slowly. It takes months to get a harvest. And so that just doesn't produce enough biomass in a short enough time. They're not productive enough. So then people started moving away from macro crops into micro crops, i.e. microorganisms that can be farmed scientifically to increase their productivity. And instead of taking months for a crop to mature, it takes hours. So instead of harvesting twice a year, we harvest 3 or 4 times every single day. And what we're looking at here now are full-scale production bioreactors. These bioreactors are where we grow the material every day, and then we apply our technology, which ups the productivity in a way which I'll explain to you. And then that's what we say it means. It goes from a microorganism, the natural microorganism, to a microcrop, when we basically triple the productivity. So then, that's a very special camera that combines visible, near-infrared, and shortwave infrared. And it's able to manage the layers, the right number of layers of these materials, so that at any one time, exactly the right amount of light is getting through layer 1, through layer 2, through layer 3, through layer 4, etc. And then when you get the wrong number of layers, automatically the camera says, time to harvest, zzz, and the harvest machine turns on, and it sucks them out and puts it back to the right number of layers. And then it grows a little bit more, harvest again, grows a little more, harvest again. And so the whole secret of the technology is keeping that growth rate exactly at that peak. So once we've grown the material at that high rate, which is the rate necessary to make it be profitable, we then harvest. As I said, when the camera says it's time to turn on the harvest, then the harvest machines turn on. You can't see them, they're under the water. They're in the corners of each of those 4 cells, and basically they're just big, giant pool skimmers. And it harvests until the camera says, okay, you've harvested enough, then it stops. And what's harvested goes through that, is pumped underground to that pump room, and then on into the process room, which we'll go see in a second. In the process room, the first process that happens, well, it gets dewatered a little bit, and then it goes into a screw press. It squishes it down and squishes out a large amount of the water. But what's valuable about that is with the water comes out the soluble proteins. And the soluble proteins are high concentration and high value. They have a very good amino acid mix. So then we separate the proteins from the water. The water goes right back into the bioreactors. It's recycled, 99% is recycled. And the proteins that are left over are then dried and sold to the animal feed market and the human food market. And we believe this kind of crop, which can grow 150 tons of biomass per hectare per year, can change the supply of protein around the world. Now, what's left over after you've taken the protein out are the carbohydrates and the lipids, the fats. And those carbohydrates and lipids together we call the mash. That mash is then sent to a normal petroleum refinery, and it's refined right in with the petroleum. And as it's refined in with the petroleum, out the back end comes the normal gas, the normal diesel, the normal fuel oil, et cetera, et cetera. And it goes right into the normal pipelines and right into your gas tank, and it's a so-called drop-in fuel. That's a big advantage over these substitute fuels. You can't put biodiesel in the pipelines. You can't put too much biodiesel in your car. And you can't use it up north when it's cold because it turns into a big lump of white grease. So, big advantage for making drop-in fuels. And we are currently in negotiations with 150 plus companies around the world, representing several hundred units. Each unit, 5,000 of these bioreactors that you see here. And so it's a big investment, but it pays big, big dividends.
Now, Petro Algae officials declined to offer specific financial information about their deal with GTP Power Enterprise of California, but marketing documents suggest the licensing fee during construction could be near $100 million, with annual royalties of more than $10 million. Now to another place where the environment and commerce intersect. It's a sprawling 36-acre fuel terminal, the kind with all those huge round tanks, that's taking shape at Port Canaveral. When operator Seaport Canaveral's terminal opens next year, it'll have the capacity for more than 117 million gallons of fuel, though nothing derived from algae just yet. If just a little of that spills, whether from a tank or from a tanker ship, everyone wants to know what to do. 8 agencies got together recently to run through such a scenario. Here's a look.
We are Seaport Canaveral, building a brand new terminal here in Port Canaveral. The value of the project is $150 million. We will be a fully automated terminal. We will have 24 tanks with oil products coming in and going out on a loading rack to the market. And we are the industry-led participation in the PREPS exercise with the United States Coast Guard. We are deploying the area-wide contingency plan in the likely event that we have an oil spill in the future. Although we're not a terminal yet, we are concerned about the environment in the port. We are exercising our facility response plan and our management and response teams to a fictitious spill here in the port. This is a very small cleanup operation. We should be done in a few days. Because we had equipment positioned and a team in place, we will have a very rapid response, and we will be able to hold and minimize the impact to the port here. All of the agencies that are in the area-wide contingency plan led by the United States Coast Guard, DEP from Tallahassee, NOAA is here, Office of Emergency Management, Homeland Security, Fire Department, local fire department, and of course our partner here, the Canaveral Port Authority.
This is really not unlike the kind of drills that we do for hurricanes, not unlike the drills we do for security incidents at the cruise terminals. We plan well so that when something could happen, might happen, does happen, then we're ready. I'm just absolutely thrilled with the amount of people that are here making this happen, and come the first quarter of next year, the Seaport Canaveral tank farm will go into operation, and I can't wait. It's going to be a big boost for the port and for the local economy at a time when the economy is going to need it.
Although the drill focused primarily on responding to a spill or leak, officials also told us they've taken steps to safeguard the terminal against a terrorist attack. They didn't want to offer specifics, but protection includes 24-hour surveillance. Built at a cost of $150 million, the terminal is the most expensive construction undertaking ever at the port. On a smaller scale, but certainly of no less importance, is the $35 million renovation and construction project at Satellite High School, involving the construction of new buildings and improvements at existing structures, some of which date back to the 1960s. The endeavor took more than 2.5 years. It's now finished, and Principal Mark Elliott recently took us on a tour.
Hello, we're here at Satellite High School, where we have just completed a 2.5-year renovation, $35 million. My name is Mark Elliott, and I'm the principal here at Satellite, and I'd like to take a few minutes to show you around our campus. The building we're looking at right now is our vocational and administrative office building. It was just completed in the last 4 months, and we're really happy to have all of our new programs. We have home economics, drafting, interior design, and we have all of our AP classes, yearbook, newspaper, and so it's one of our newest buildings that was just finished. From our vocational building, if you turn over to this area, we have our new addition to our music building, and this is chorus and all 5 of our bands that we have, orchestra, violin, and they have been updated or renovated. We move over here to our gym, 15. We have air conditioning inside, and our locker rooms were completely renovated, and walls were torn out, and really a fabulous place for our visitors when we have games inside our gym. This 2-story building was the first building that was built for this renovation. It has 33 classrooms. It houses the dean's office, guidance office. The top floor is our 9th grade house, where we house our 9th grade students for their core classes. And then on the first floor, we have all different classes in English, science, and social studies. It has 33 classrooms, and it's the premier building, I think, of our renovation.
My freshman year, I was really lost. Like, I couldn't really find anything because there was like so many buildings. Now that there's like 2 or 3 buildings, everything's just centrally located. It's really nice.
As part of our renovation, our auto mechanics building was completely renovated. And now we have 6 bays in the new classroom. And when students finish a 3-year program here, that will allow them to go to BCC with certain credits in auto mechanics. That's what's been happening at Satellite High School for the last 2.5 years. And we are very proud of our new facility, and the school board and all of the leadership team have really been supportive of us here at Satellite, and I hope you've enjoyed your tour.
You can follow this story and others at our education blog, Cram Session, found only at floridatoday.com. Satellite High was built 46 years ago, but age, as Beulah Christy will tell you, is relative. The Melbourne resident was a sprightly 62 years old back then, and she's still going strong now. She recently marked her 108th birthday with a cake, some reminiscing, and yes, even a dance. We talked with the former cigar roller and speakeasy operator about her long, colorful life.
Our birthday girl is here. Can I have a big hand for Miss Beulah?
I thank the dear Lord every day for my blessings. Oh, God. Everybody's been praying for me, but when my time comes, it's going to come.
Beulah Christy was born in a log cabin on a farm in Michigan on August 25, 1901, to Oliver Etu and Mary Nollette. She was the 10th of 11 children the couple would have. Beulah would never know her 4 sisters, but she did have one brother that really stood out to her.
Then the First World War, my brother, Walter, didn't want to be drafted. That was in 1917. He was the 6 boys and 5 girls, but 5 of my little sisters died before I was born. So they all died, and then my brother, Walter, he enlisted. He went to Waco, Texas, and to different places before he got on the line. So the plane came down. One of his buddies was over here. He saw what happened, and he told us, Percy LaForge is the name. And he came over and told me, he says, your brother got hit in the foot. They shot him in the foot. he bent down and he got it in the forehead and killed him. 1918, he died just 3 months before armistice was signed. And he was just the most thoughtful brother of all of my brothers. But God knew he wasn't going to be here long. And he was just the sweetest boy. He was good looking. I had his picture up in my place. He done so many things for me. He just loved me because I was his only sister.
Beulah's father died in 1926 and her mother in 1931. Beulah also was married in 1923 to Reuben Christy, but he died at age 86 in 1986. Beulah had enjoyed relative good health and lived on her own until an accident a little more than a year ago when her neighbor came over seeking her help.
He's in his 90s and he has a thing on his eye and to look, he can't hardly see. Yeah. He came over after it was dark. He lives alone. He's a nice guy. And he said, Beulah, will you help me find my glasses? I dropped them someplace. And I said, oh, sure, I'll be glad to. So he had the flashlight. And I have a door here with I get in and I hang on the railing. I forgot to hang on the railing. And my car's over here and the cement slab is here. So lo and behold, I was so excited to get out there and never give it a thought about putting my hand on the chair. Over I went, just like that on my head right here on the cement slab. It's a wonder that I didn't break something, but my pelvis was bad. That affected my pelvis. I was in the hospital for way over a month taking strong pills, and I lost my appetite. I went down to 85 pounds. I wanted to die. I didn't want to live anymore.
That fall put an end to something Beulah had enjoyed for nearly 8 decades.
I got my driver's license until 2010, but I can't drive. I sold my car. They won't let me. Well, not at my age. I got a letter from the government, from the tax. They said, you cannot drive no more. So really? I sold it about 2 years ago. I never had an accident or a ticket. All the years I've been driving. I was a good driver. Very good.
Beulah now enjoys her days sewing and helping friends at Emeritus at Melbourne, the retirement home at which she has resided for more than a year now. 3 of her 4 children are still alive, with her youngest dying at age 75 more than 3 years ago.
I'm outliving an awful lot of people, you know, but that's my life. I don't know. God had built me a mansion and he hasn't finished it yet.
Looking for Mrs. Christie's secret to longevity? Unfortunately, you won't find it on the market. It's just in her genes, her 84-year-old son told us. And finally, bring in the cats and dogs, and let's all learn about how to take care of Fido and Fluffy in case of a hurricane. It's your weekly hurricane preparation video.
You have several options when it comes to handling your pets in the face of a storm. You can keep it at home with you, take it with you if you evacuate, leave it with a friend, or board it in a kennel. Keep in mind that most public shelters do not allow pets. Be sure your pet has the proper tags and identification and that all the information is current. This is the best way to increase your chances of finding a lost pet after the storm. Keep a 2-week supply of food, water, and medication and try to make your pet as comfortable as possible. If you plan on boarding your pets, now is the time to call your vet and make any arrangements. If you take your pet with you, consider buying a portable carrier large enough to allow your pet to stand up and turn around.
Well, that's our show for this week. Thanks for joining us. We hope to see you next time as we bring you more stories, images, and sounds from around the Space Coast. Have a great week.